Hey there guys, alright, today we are back with another Geography Now video, this time Bahrain. I know this country exists, not another April Fool's joke. Motherfucker, you got me last time. I'm paying attention now, right? Go ahead, dive right in.
Bahrain. Not Bahrain, not Bahrain, not Bahrain, not Bob Saget.
Oh, but it's not Bob Saget.
Bahrain. You pronounce the H. And now we can begin.
It's time to learn geography now!
Hey peeps, I'm your host Paul Barbato. We're moving on up to the east side of Saudi Arabia. We are going to cover Bahrain. But first, you know the drill. Let's dissect the flag. The flag is made up of two
very
parts,
simple.
the white side and the red side with the serrated triangle border between them. The triangles on the white serrated stripe represent the 5 pillars of Islam. The color red is supposed to represent the Kharijite sect of Islam. By the way, keep in mind the flag of Bahrain is very similar to the flag of Qatar.
Holy shit, that is very similar.
That's right, that's how you pronounce it. Qatar, not Qatar, not Quater, not Bob Saget, but...
Not Bob Saget, neither. I swear one of these countries named Bob Saget.
Qatar, like a grass cutter or bonquiqui at the king.
God, I've been pronouncing it Qatar for my whole life. I don't know if I could ever switch to Qatar. It just doesn't seem right to my English brain.
When you piss her off, she becomes a cutter. However, Qatar's flag is much wider and has maroon instead of red. And
A wide flag? Why? Why go wide? That doesn't look as appealing. It looks stretched out. Qatar, what are you doing?
9 points, not 5. Let's cut to the next segment.
God damn it.
Not many people know where Bahrain is, and partially that's because it's kind of small. If you look at the Arabian Gulf, you'll see the big guys like Saudi Arabia, Oman, Kuwait, and then you get to the small archipelago right above Qatar, and then you realize you've reached Bahrain. Bahrain is made up of 33 natural islands. However, extensive land reclamation projects have actually increased the size of Bahrain by about 40 square miles or 100 square kilometers, and has technically increased the island count to about 84 with artificially constructed islands and islets. Nonetheless, the entire country at its longest is only about 48 kilometers long and 16 kilometers wide. The largest island, Bahrain Island, makes up about 83% of the entire country's landmass and contains the country's capital, Manama, a modern-day architectural metropolis with tall, entrancing
I see you, Bahrain. I see you. That's beautiful.
skyscrapers, each one almost competing with the other to show superior design and elegance. The country is divided up into 12 different municipalities and 5 different governments. The vast majority of people live in the north, specifically in the capital Manama and the adjacent towns right next to it. The south government is barely populated and has less than 100,000 inhabitants. The government wants to change that though and has been developing civil engineering projects and try to allure the population to spread throughout the outer, secluded regions of the country. For example, constructing a water park in the middle of the desert and a massive $6 billion project called the Durat Al Bahrain, the largest artificial island residence located right at the southernmost tip of the country.
Holy shit. Wow, yeah, even zoomed out you can fucking see it. I mean, it's all sand though, like no one wants to live where it's really sandy.
The most confusing part though would have to be the Hawar Islands, part of the southern governorate. These islands are a group of islands that, although at the closest less than 2 kilometers from Qatar, were a source of lots of territorial disputes, and these islands belong to Bahrain. Basically, this is how it went down. Okay, Qatar, we'll take these 16 islands and you can take that small little Jinan island, alright? No. Thanks, it was great negotiating with you. Now, although Bahrain is an island, they do have access to Saudi Arabia by the King Fahd Causeway, built in 1986. The bridge was a huge deal in which, prior to its construction, the only way people could get to Bahrain was by a 30-minute flight or a long ferry. Since then, the two countries have never been closer together, both literally and figuratively. Now Bahrain is in the process of building another bridge between them and Qatar, currently referred to as the Friendship Bridge. Talks are still going on, but both countries seem to
through the power of friendship.
be excited to start up on it. But you know what I'm excited about?
What?
Trust my spirit, intuition, gut feeling and suspicion. I am on a mission, reading books for ammunition.
He's excited.
Looking at a satellite map, you would think that Bahrain doesn't really have much to offer other than sand. I mean, it's generally flat, dry, no forest either. However, there is a tree of life standing in the South Governorate, all alone by itself. It's the oldest and only major tree growing in the entire area, and it's actually kind of a tourist destination. However, Bahrain is one of the 18 countries in
How the fuck is it still alive? It has to be like on top of like a water deposit or
The world
something.
doesn't have any rivers, no natural lakes, and it rarely ever rains here. So you would think, okay, then how do these people, like, not die from thirst? Well, yes, about 92% of the country is desert. However, they do have a few somewhat wetter and milder areas along the west coast. But where does the water come from? Well, the short answer is there's generally two sources. Underground water springs and, just like we studied in the Antigua and Barbuda video, desalinization plants. Now, Bahrain is lucky because it's located on the Daman Aquifer, a region that soaks up water in the porous rocks and sands and distributes that water underground through springs in multiple regions around the Gulf area, such as Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, and Bahrain being one of those regions. This is where I would like to remind you viewers that this is geography now, not geology now. Even I don't understand the phenomena behind aquifers and underwater tectonics. All you have to know is that it's a thing, it's real, and it's kind of awesome, and it's how Bahrain gets some of their water. However, drought is a common problem for the country, and it's not uncommon for huge dust storms to engulf the entire region. However, Bahrain
Yeah, screw that.
isn't one of those countries that kind of puts all their hopes in oil. Angola. Over the past few decades, they've diversified their revenue sources to various categories including banking, finance, machinery, and even tourism. In fact, according to the Economic Index of Freedom, Bahrain has the freest economy in the Middle East, and especially after signing a free trade agreement with the US in 2005, and in 2006, the UN cited Bahrain as the fastest growing economy in the Arab world, even passing the United Arab Emirates. Take that, Dubai, with your world's tallest buildings and indoor skiing resorts. You know, I've heard
Yeah, take that,
it's
Dubai.
said that trading involves people. People that we'll find out about in... Now, when it comes to the population, Bahrain is pretty strange because it's one of the few countries in which expatriates actually outnumber the nationals. With about 1.2 million people, Bahraini nationals only make up about 46% of the population, and expats make up the remaining 55%. The most common nationalities of expats being Indian, Bengali, Pakistani, Filipinos, and
Well, it is such a small country, and yet if tourism is its biggest thing, expats do make sense.
Indonesians. Now, the funny thing is that although Arabic is the official language, most of the population has to learn English as a universal language in order for nationals and expats and even tourists to communicate with each other. This makes Bahrain a very English-friendly country. Now, freedom of religion is allowed, however, if one were to apply for Bahraini citizenship, it would be much easier for a Muslim, as the country is still mostly predominantly run by a Muslim parliament and a Sunni Muslim royal family. Oh yeah, that's the thing. Bahrain is a monarchy, currently under the rule of King Hamad bin Isa al-Khalifa, and it's kind of like a really new monarchy, like it started in 2002. Some people
Oh, what? What the fuck did that
will
happen?
tell you that it's a constitutional monarchy, some will tell you that it's an absolute monarchy. Here's the reason why. Hamad bin Isa comes from a long line of people known as the Al-Khalifa family, which has kind of had a dynasty over the country for 3 centuries. However, each head of state only gave themselves the title of Hakim, which means something like national caretaker, or Emir, which means chief. After his father died, Hamad bin Isa took over the role as the second Emir, as his father was the first Emir, but then 3 years later, he kind of decided to change things up a little bit, and then he was the first one to officially proclaim himself as the king of
Okay, that makes sense.
Bahrain. This was taken with mixed reviews. Some liked it, some didn't like it. Ones that particularly didn't like it most were the Shia Muslims, which make up the slight majority of the country's Muslim population.
Ooh, it's one of the, yeah. This is a problem in the Arab world, is that you have Shia majority countries, but with a Sunni minority leadership, which is what seems to be the case here in Bahrain.
Complaints about the king and how he administered national affairs started to boil. After the spring uprising in Egypt, many Bahraini citizens jumped in and things got a little heated, and the country saw some of the worst clashing and protesting that it had ever seen in years. It got so bad that eventually they had to tear down the famous Pearl Monument, a common meeting spot for the protesters during the rallies. Today, however, most of the drama is kind of settled and cooled off. However, you still get some people that throw rocks here and there.
This is very complicated and hard to explain, so let's just move on.
Oh, and Bahrainis love Formula One racing. Bahrain made history in 2004 as they opened the first Formula One Grand Prix in the Middle East, and every year they hold the event, which draws in huge international audiences. Oh, and another thing, alcohol is totally allowed in Bahrain, which is why a lot of their dry neighbors keep an eye on them and visit frequently. Neighbors that we'll discuss in...
Friendship zone.
Bahrain
Yay.
is one heck of a guy, isn't he? It's kind of crazy that Dubai gets all the attention. For what it's worth, though, pretty much all the countries represented by the expats have good relations with Bahrain, like India and Pakistan and Indonesia, Malaysia and the Philippines. But when it comes to business, though, Bahrain knows how to play their cards. Turkey and the
Lots of Southeast Asia expats. Yeah.
The U.S. are among their top
Interesting.
business partners, and they've even allowed the U.S.'s Fifth Fleet to station themselves in the Bahraini territory. Now, when it comes to the U.K.,
Oh, that's real chill.
things are kind of, well, let's just say Bahrain was kind of under British protectorate status for a period of time. And although the British did do some great development projects, such as building various schools and hospitals and roads and so on, the Bahrainis were tired of the British occupation, and finally in 1971, the UK relinquished Bahrain, and to this day, despite the history, they still get along relatively well. Now, if there was ever a case of a country actually friend-zoning another country, it would have to be Bahrain and Iran. When it comes to Iran, things are kind of awkward. Iran really wants Bahrain to become a part of Iran. 2007, Hossein Shariat Madari, advisor to the Ayatollah, called for a stance to incorporate Bahrain as another province of Iran. Bahrainis were a little weirded out by this because it kind of sounded like what Saddam Hussein said about Kuwait back in the
It sounds exactly like what Saddam Hussein said about Kuwait.
To make things worse, a lot of Bahrainis were torn between alliances. For one, the slight majority of the Muslims are Shia, so theologically they affirm Iran's view. However, a lot of the Shias are actually Arab and not Persian, which causes a whole new set of drama. And
That is a very historical drama that dates back centuries and
to make things even more confusing, a lot of the Sunni Muslims in Bahrain, specifically the politicians and businessmen, actually have ties to or even came from Iran, many of which actually speak Farsi at home. This causes a weird
That's fucking weird. The Sunnis are more in line with the Shia government of Iran.
state in Bahrain in which they're kind of like, look, Iran, I'm trying really hard to be cool with you, and I like you, but you need to kind of just give me some space because you're kind of creeping me out. However, when it comes to their best friends, Bahrain would more or less probably consider Saudi Arabia. However, the only issue is that Saudi Arabia is kind of like the friend that doesn't quite know how to stop partying. Bahrain is kind of seen as like the Disneyland of Saudi Arabia, and every weekend tons and tons of Saudis come over to party and they kind of go a little nuts. Bahrain is kind of like, look, Saudi Arabia, I love you guys, you know, we have so much fun together, but seriously, you need to stop trashing my apartment. Oh my god, no, I'm so sorry. No, like seriously, here, just take $14 million. Just buy yourself a whole new apartment. That's not what... Okay, fine. Thank you. In conclusion, I'm not saying Dubai is so 2000 late, but what I am saying is Bahrain is so right now. Stay tuned. Bangladesh is coming up next.
Alright, that was Geography Now, Bahrain. Not much here to add on at the end. I mean, it's a small country, so really hasn't done much. I mean, yeah, they're a tourist destination, obviously. Economically, they're not putting all their money into oil like a lot of the countries like around it are. But yeah, that was a good video. I hope you guys enjoyed too. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.